If I were truly honest about my tarot deck collection, which decks would go? That's a scary question, but here are the decks that could go. I'm not saying they're gonna go, but they could go if I were truly honest. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decks in here out of 28 decks, I believe, including the doubles and backups and all of that. First deck I want to include is the Alchemical Tarot, which is in my old New Orleans Voodoo Tarot box. The reason I want to start off with this one is because I go back and forth on this deck, my opinion and my feelings on this deck, so many times now since I've had it, beginning of last year. It's a little bit frustrating to me, and maybe to you as well, because one day I love it, the next day I say I never work with it. So let's clear that up. The Alchemical Tarot, let's actually show you some of the cards. I have the window open, I don't know if you can hear things, but it's just a little warm all of a sudden. I'm in Amsterdam, and we've been having a storm here, and it's still a stormy day and a stormy evening, and it's going to be a stormy night. And I think weather forecast is saying stormy week. But, you know, overall, the overwhelming majority of us Dutchies are fine. Few trees fell over, few tiles came down. Overall, we're fine. Anyway, just an impression of the Alchemical Tarot. The reason I put this deck in my top 10 decks or something, that was a tag that I did not so long ago by Katie Flowers, I believe. And at the same time, I talked about this deck in my last 2 videos, saying, I'm not sure if I want to keep it at all. You know, that's mixed signals. I understand that. Looking at the images, this is my favorite card, the Justice card. I mean, I think it's my favorite card. I really love it. But looking at this deck, I love it. And the reason it's in my, if I could only have 10 decks, it's because this is not my newest deck, but it's the newest deck with imagery I don't know. And I know I could spend years studying it, learning about the tradition, learning about the religions, all of that stuff really interests me a lot. But the thing is, I've realized that some of these decks, the reason they are in this category of, if I were truly honest with myself and my deck collection, these are the decks that at this moment could go, because I don't really like them. They don't add anything special. I don't use them, is because some of those decks should really be books. That was my major realization, and I'm kind of starting off this video with a conclusion, but I'm doing spoilers today, apparently, and this was like this epiphany of mine almost, like, why do I have a deck? I mean, I'm not gonna let this go that quickly. I'm gonna still give it a chance, you know? I mean, be honest, this is a hard to find deck. Yes, all of that stuff I know shouldn't matter, but you know, if you've been here long enough, I got rid of plenty decks that are independently published, extremely expensive, rare, hard to find, out of print, vintage, first edition, all of that stuff. So it's not exactly, you know, like I don't get rid of decks that are hard to find. If I feel I really don't have, or the deck really doesn't stand a chance with me, or vice versa, the deck will go. This one I still feel needs a little bit more of a chance. But at the moment, if I were truly honest with myself and the deck collection, meaning, you know, I'm a tarot reader, I love some of my decks. Some of the decks, I know why I keep them, and others, they're just there. And those decks, I'm going to show you today and explain why. Just to share with you where I'm at right now with my collection and the way I look at tarot and decks and all of that stuff and collecting, because, it's been an interesting topic floating around on Tarot Tube. That's for one. And then the other one is also obviously to make you guys think. Maybe you are hanging on to some things, some decks that really could be enjoyed, I guess, or appreciated more elsewhere, because sometimes these decks are collecting dust and they don't deserve it, right? Looking at this deck together with maybe two others here, I don't feel like I need the deck in order to appreciate the topic. And I didn't realize that beforehand. I got this deck because of the artwork, obviously, it's beautiful. I got it because I was curious, because it's an out of print deck. And there it was, all of a sudden, highly priced, but I could afford it and I wanted to buy it. I got it. I got lucky, it's very new. But also, why do I need this to be a deck? If the themes and the stories, and in this case, the tradition and religions and all of that, are truly what keeps me inspired, I could have gotten a wonderful book or a few to make me familiar with all of these stories that I'm interested in, all of these traditions. And now it's like I am adding a pressure to go there to learn all of these things because I have the deck and I feel I have to work with it. I'm going to have to look all of this stuff up. I'm going to have to learn all of this stuff anyway, now that I have the deck. Had I not had this deck, in my experience, in my opinion, in what I expect really, I would have been able to just learn all of these things at my own pace. And I will, of course, do it at my own pace, except that now that I already own the deck, that I'm not using it, I feel a little bit guilty and I feel the pressure of getting to know all of these things. Without the deck, it would have been the same situation, minus the pressure. So what am I doing? Anyway, all I have right now is the little white book. And so, yeah, basically, the reason this deck is in this category, and I wanted to talk about it first, is because, yeah, the mixed signals, I totally get that. I mean, I didn't get any comments on that. It's just I realized, why is this deck coming up all of a sudden, all the time? I mean, between the 10 decks I have to have for the rest of my life kind of thing. And at the same time, it's, oh, I'm not sure about this deck at all. What's going on in my brain? The thing I like about it is also the thing that is incredibly intimidating, meaning I have a lifetime, if I wanted to learn everything there is to know about this deck. And on the other hand, it's just too much. And I feel, at least right now, I don't need it. I have enough to study and contemplate and think and learn with the Triomphe de la Luna, meaning a Marseille system. I still love that one to bits. The Thoth deck, there's still so much I want to explore with that deck. Then there's also the Rider-Waite Smith, which is still a system I love. I still love the way that deck reads and the amount of information there is to find on that deck. Also, I'm not done learning more on Marseille. Those pips are still, I'm passionate about those. I want to know different ways of reading those pips, or getting those types of epiphanies that you can just have by actually reading the tarot as a book, because it is the book of life, right? Then there's also the weirdest deck and ugliest deck ever, the Crow's Magic Tarot. I still cannot flip through that deck in my mind. So it's still not a main deck. But you know what I mean? I really love the study and the experience of tarot, meaning it's something that is deepened. Having too many decks for me, and that might change, obviously, but I feel this lack of focus and concentration almost, because having more decks makes me go surface level, makes me go a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then never going deep. Whereas I feel with those 4 decks I just mentioned, I already dug a little bit. I already went into that depth. I already experienced how good it can be and how healing and also great and interesting, and how much we can learn from just studying 4 decks, for instance. Now, you guys know I love more than 4 decks in my collection, but it's the depth that I feel I am almost being pulled away from by having too many decks sometimes. Now, this is a dilemma, right? Because who is to say I'm not going to regret me culling this deck if I ever do in a few years, when I finally get to the truth, perhaps, of a prediction that I accidentally made doing that no more than 10 decks tag, saying this is a deck I'm going to need for the rest of my life, because I'll be able to learn and study and read up on for the rest of my life, right? But on the other hand, I also don't want to spoil my experience at the moment. What do you guys think on this rant? Because this was just one deck out of 7, what did I say? 7 decks, I think, that if I were truly honest, I should let go of. So, here are the other ones. Oh, by the way, before we keep going, I am wearing my brand new shirt. This is the Cosmic Wizard from one of my favorite bands, still, Captain Beyond. There is some confusion about my channel name and Instagram name, astralladytarot, because people get those words mixed up, like astral tarot lady or something. I'm not a tarot lady, okay? I'm not a lady. I'm just a woman. I'm not ladylike. I'm not very ladylike. I have my moments, sure, but overall, just no. So that's not why. And then also, I received a few messages, but that was mostly in the beginning. People asking, hey, there's astral in your name. Do you go on many astral projections and all of that? And at the time, I didn't actually realize that what I was doing as a type of meditation or as a magical practice or as a focus, that this is actually often considered astral projection or astral travel. So I answered for a while, I answered, no, it's just because of the Captain Beyond song that is Astral Lady, and I love the Captain Beyond self-titled album. Astral Lady isn't even the best song on it, but it felt like that would be me then. And then I just added tarot, and there you go. It's Astral Lady Tarot, and it's because of this band. Ooh, yeah. From the 70s. They don't exist anymore, guys. Okay, second deck that could go, and is going to go. Oracle of the Radiant Sun. So, there's more brutal honesty coming, just so you know. I have a very good plan for this deck. I'm not going to spoil it by saying it in this video, because I'm pretty sure it will be up before this and this happens. I'll tell you afterwards. The reason I'm not worried, brutal honesty coming up right now, about culling this deck is because it is a second printing. Uh-oh. Yeah, I went there. It's not the first edition, because I can just get this one in a store whenever I feel like it. At least that's what it looks like right now. This is the regularly available version, which I think I could repurchase if I feel like it. I don't think I will, though, because this is so very about astrology, which is, I don't even think I knew that when I got this deck. And I know I'm going to have to get a little bit into astrology, or I don't have to do anything, but maybe I should be a little bit more open to it. And I am just open to me using it. Now, the pretty images of this deck I still like, but I ended up using this deck on my altar. I would just flip through the deck thinking, okay, what do I want to bring into my life or manifest? The adaptability, which is an iconic typo in this deck. If I feel like, oh, I'm being too rigid, I need to be adaptable, then I would pick this card and put it somewhere I would be able to see it. And then throughout the week or months, depending on how long this takes, I would kind of dissect the symbols one by one that I see. Now that is a nice way to work with this deck, but it's not what it's for, and I've been doing this for at least 2 years now with this deck, and it's been alright, except that I noticed I was using no more than 10 cards in this deck because some of the keywords are kind of secrets. I don't know. Speculation. That's not really something I can use. Ostentation? Affair? Hell no. You know? So I'm ready to part with this deck. It's not exactly collecting dust, but it's just not for me, and I'm pretty sure it would be better somewhere else. We'll see. I just want to make a point out of this. Had this been the vintage out of print first edition rare deck that goes for crazy prices, I don't think I would be able to part with this deck that easily. I think eventually I would. It's just, once again, I don't, I'm glancing over it. I mentioned it. Please comment about it, because that's like the brutal honesty thing that I was talking about regarding this deck. What is this? And but once again, this is just one of those decks that's about astrology. The book doesn't explain all the symbols on the cards. It should just be a book rather than a deck to me. I'm pretty certain at this moment that I would have no problem letting this deck go, El Gran Tarot Esoterico, and actually, you can't see it because it's just a black box, but the original Mythic Tarot from the 80s, if they weren't first edition. Maybe the Mythic Tarot isn't the first edition, but it's just the edition that is actually out of print with the nice artwork. These are the backs. Look, I'm gonna have to give this deck a chance, I'm pretty sure, because I've had it quite a long time. I like it, but it has been a long time since this was a deck I reached for. And it is collecting dust. Which is sad because I love the guidebook. It's one of the best, maybe even the best Rider-Waite-Smith system book that I ever read. Yeah, some guidebooks, guys, are actually really good. This one is one of them. It's on the Greek myths, in case you didn't know. I know I would have no problem letting this one go if it was just regularly available. I know I would have no problem letting this one go, but this one is even crazier because it is regularly available right now. Oh shit, there all the cards. Where the cards go? It is a first edition. And I know there's a smaller chance that I will get my hands on the first edition if I ever regret it. Wow. Both the Hermit. Oh no. Is this a sign that they feel lonely or that I should just keep them? Don't tell me. I'll make the decision on my own because I feel so guilty. Sharing these things online, it's to provide a service in a way, like to make people reconsider their collection, I guess. But also I get comments like, no, don't let go of this deck just because it's a Picard system and you don't feel like learning it. Okay, maybe I should give it another go. And then I just don't because I'm so into all my other decks. Anyway, vicious circle maybe over here. Maybe I'm just gonna have to make a decision. Anyway, I hang on to these two decks because I believe I won't be able to replace them if I regret my decision. That's basically it. This one is actually regularly available, yet it won't be a first edition, probably, if I feel like I do need it all of a sudden. This one is gonna be maybe just a more battered version, or I will never get the new version because that one, no. They really didn't do a good job with that deck. I do like more special versions of decks, that's true. I appreciate first editions. Just like with books, I do like original vintage over replicas. Now, of course, a deck is a deck. It's not a replica. But then again, isn't it? Like, looking at a Thoth deck, I know the first few decks that were printed all had misprints, cards upside down, missing keywords, missing titles, missing numbers, horrible coloration, all of that. Now they are very much sought after, but aside from that, they were beautifully printed, in my opinion. I love my greenie. Buying a new Thoth deck, I I feel the same way as Sylvain, who said this in one of his older videos. Having the Thoth deck as your deck, or as one of your main decks to work with, is almost like a relief because you know, just like the Rider-Waite Smith, just like the standard regular Marseille, those decks will always be in print, will always be regularly available. Knock on wood, by the way. It's a relief, but comparing a new US game to me, okay, I know people love that deck, but comparing a new US Games Thoth deck to my vintage greenie is just not the same thing. And I'm gonna have a very clear, what's the word, favorite. I'm gonna have a very clear favorite. I feel kind of stupid almost admitting this, but it's just true. It's just my taste. Not saying it's all or nothing, just a question for you. Is a new version of a deck just the same deck to you guys? Or is a new version of a deck feel like a replica? Yeah. That's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. That used to be a very different story when people felt like they shouldn't purchase old, used decks. You should always buy a new tarot deck. Otherwise, the other person's energy is in the deck. I never felt like that, but I always loved the older stuff, you know. I really try to have nothing new in my home. So everything at least pre-owned, I feel just better. And same with tarot decks, like I didn't mind. I actually kind of loved the fact that some tarot decks already had a life with someone. Maybe I'm just weird, I don't know. Just let me know in the comments. I know I bring up a lot of points in this video that you can comment on and share your opinion on. Please do, because the more I talk, the more I feel I'm not making any sense. I'm contradicting myself all the time and incoherent. Here's another one I got last year. Oh, I talked about this one in my previous video, I believe. This is the Pierre Madonier. I had a whole bunch of reasons to get this deck, but it has to go. It has to go. Look, I cannot wait to get my hands on a classic Marseille, but this is not the one. This is not the one for me. I thought it was, because let's face it, it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty, except that I wasn't expecting this, and I just needed to be a little bit less high maintenance or something. I feel that the energy of this deck is just asking too much of me. The feel isn't right for what it is. You know the deck I think I might love? The Anima Antiqua by Lo Scarabeo. And that little guy turns out to be out of print. I didn't know that. This is beautiful. This is an Yves Renaud deck. And basically what I would love to find, same images, but on cards I feel make sense for a tarot deck. This is like a museum piece. I know some people love it, and you guys probably know I am very much into thick, sturdy cardstock, but this is just too much. I don't like it. Tarot is a very tactile experience, okay? For the people who just came in and think, what the hell are you talking about? Having a spiritual practice with your tarot deck isn't just about reading the cards. It's actually also the shuffle, the spreading out of the cards, the the dealing the cards, being the card slinger, just overhand shuffle, the feel of the cards, okay? The feel of the cards. My true dilemma. I don't feel good having decks I don't work with. That feeling is emphasized when I realize I don't actually want to work with these decks, which is what I've been experiencing with Pierre Madonier, although the images, absolutely beautiful. Alchemical Tarot Esoterico. Maybe I'm just not open to this system. Maybe I will never be ready accepting this system, adopting this system. Maybe I just don't want to adopt this system. Maybe it's a terrible shame, because that's how I truly feel about it, which is why it's a personal dilemma with this deck. Artwork, beautiful, I love it. Feel of the cards, great, but whatever. The shame is, it's esoterico. It's esoteric. And I am very interested in it, learning those esoteric symbols. Yet, it will not be a reading deck. Once again, I guess for me, this should be a book. Okay? Mythic Tarot may be the same. Maybe all I need to do is get rid of the deck, which I have to admit is a little bit of a nostalgic crush, but keep the guidebook, because that one I loved. I loved the guidebook so much more than the deck, actually, which is pretty crazy, isn't it? I mean, doesn't make sense. Like I said, I feel sometimes like I don't want to work with the deck, and that's not because those decks aren't good. They are actually all good decks. I'm convinced of that. It's just they don't fit where I am at, or they don't fit me, maybe ever. It's simply because I have other decks that I am in love with and I do want to work with, and I do want to go in depth with those decks. Because if I go in depth with one of these, it's just not going to work, because it's a focus shift and it's going to keep me away from what I truly find interesting, and it's going to go against what I feel like doing naturally. It's just not good to force these things. I feel like I don't have the time or the headspace to learn these decks, these systems, these stories, these approaches, the images, the characters in the deck, the symbols, all of those. And people keep telling me, check out this video to get to know this deck. Thank you for helping out. Obviously, I asked for it. And even if I didn't, I guess I somehow asked for it in the video. I'm just frustrated with some of these decks. As a study, it's nice, but as a deck, it's just not a deck for me, and it should be a book. Here's another deck I got a few years ago, and I always kept it in the I'll work with you later pile. And now it's in this pile. I don't know if I'll be able to part with it, but it's the Alchemical Tarot. It's such a shame. It's just brand new. I got it as a birthday gift to myself, maybe like 3-4 years ago. Who knows? It's cool, but I'm interested in alchemy. I studied the theory of it a little bit. Not to the point that I can sum up all the things. I don't even have the words. I can explain it very well, I guess. But I do understand it. I understand the gist. I have plenty of my notes that I can go through. I even made my own section of a journal into a little white book for this deck, going through all the symbols and looking them up online to try to find what they meant. My point is, it's a beautiful deck, might just not be for me, because maybe it's just a little flat. Maybe again, I would be satisfied with a book on alchemy rather than trying to link it to the tarot. I like the approach of this deck. It's again, it's a shame, but we'll see. We'll see what happens to it. But just to make clear again what I'm trying to do with this video, if I were truly honest, all the decks I don't use and don't love, this one's part of it. The last deck is 2 decks, except that it's 1 deck. Why do I have 2 versions of a deck I don't really love all that much in the first place? It's because of options. Screw options. Sometimes it's just we have too many options. Ah, I'm telling you. Okay, Druid Craft. You guys tell me, which one do you prefer? Blue and green edged. Fully trimmed, fully to the stone border. This is an older version. Or the one that fits in this box. The guidebook fits, or the little guidebook fits in it. This is the newer version, meaning no thingy copyright, edged in gold, and then trimmed, but keywords are left on it, which are, not the keywords, but the titles of the cards, like the Justice, 10 of Cups, which honestly is a little bit like, I don't need it. I know this is the 10 of Cups. I don't need to have these big ass letters, 10 of Cups. It's a little bit of a, I don't need it. But this is just more beautiful. Except that if I ever get to go to England, I would bring this deck along with the Wildwood. And I'm guessing the smaller version would make more sense because it's actually quite heavy. Then again, looking at it, this one's just more beautiful. This one's maybe more me. But why don't I deserve beautiful things? Why do I feel the beautiful, clean version is less me than the battered, shorter, weirdly edged, copyright, etc. version of this deck? I don't know. Tell me everything. The conclusion of my point in the video. I know I made many different points. This is probably the most rambly video out of all of them, but I tried to hit several points, okay? And I know it went in every direction, but so do these decks, right? The conclusion here is that there's just so much to learn about tarot, and within the tarot, using the tarot, reading the tarot, is that I feel I am not open to have all of this tarot knowledge be expanded and like stretched out over yet another 3, 4, 5 systems or approaches or themes. Yet again, I feel I want to deepen the knowledge. I want to deepen the connection. I want to deepen everything. I want to deepen everything. I don't want to stretch it out and stay on the surface. Deepen is the way to go. And why do I feel this is not achievable for me with all of these decks? I don't feel I have the time to do it. I could have 1 deck and study it for the rest of my life. Now, I'm lucky to have more than 1 deck. I feel very lucky. But in truth, just my main decks would be good enough. Then I do like switching it up sometimes and have some decks for certain times of the year and all of that. But all of these, they are actually in the category of, I don't need them and I actually don't really want them either. Why do I hang on to them? Is it really just because some of them are hard to find? or they cost a lot at the time. I feel that with some systems, they could, in a sense, delay or hold up that deepening that I'm looking for, that I'm searching for, instead of actually helping me along this journey. So there's a focus switch right there again. I know that we can learn a lot from different systems and different approaches, definitely. But when I catch myself feeling the pressure to get to know these systems or to get into these decks, I have to stop, right? Or at least pause and make one of these videos and just send it out, and then I might change my opinion again. But at least there's hopefully room for a conversation here. Because even though my knowledge and way of reading the tarot is a hodgepodge of different traditions and then book meaning mixed with intuition or personal meanings, I have been feeling so much more attracted to knowing more on a specific thing rather than knowing a little bit on many things. And this is why, if I were completely honest with myself, all of these decks should or could go. That was my very confusing contribution to TarotTube today. Thank you all so much for being here. If you enjoyed this video, please don't leave yet, because I will link in the screen a video that I know you will enjoy as well. In case you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and click on that. Otherwise, click on my channel. Obviously, there are so many videos up at this point. I'm sure there are a few that you haven't seen or wish to rewatch anyway. If you're new here, please let me know as well in the comments so I can properly welcome you to this online space. If you obviously consider joining the club. If, like me, you are into exclusive things, then maybe you're also into exclusive content, which you will find on my Patreon, so consider joining that as well, or at least checking it out. I have, if you scroll down on my main page, a video that explains a little bit of what I do on there. And overall, I just want to thank you for making it this far. If you've been here from the beginning and you are still here watching this, watching me ramble, let's do the game again, because I enjoyed that so much. Okay, Philosopher's Stone. Maybe you can comment Philosopher's Stone in your comments. If you have anything else to add, you can be creative and put it in a sentence. If you have nothing to say, that's also absolutely fine. But just to let me know who of you is watching the entire videos, Philosopher's Stone, that's all I need to hear. And I will obviously send some love your way. So thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye.